it's not good to associate yourself with a number, right? And Dan Sullivan himself talks about, he does not measure himself, by a number, right? You're measuring yourself really by, your ideals, your contributions, and things like that.
Welcome to the Wealth Strategy Secrets of the Ultra Wealthy podcast, where we help entrepreneurs like you exponentially build wealth through passive income to live a life of freedom and prosperity. Are you tired of paying too much in taxes, gambling your future on the stock market, and want to learn about hidden strategies for making your money work for you? And now your host, Dave Wolcott, serial entrepreneur and author of the best-selling book, The Holistic Wealth Strategy.
Hey folks, it's Kary Oberbrunner. I have with me a best-selling author. I'll tell you what, folks, listen in. This book is going to be a great treat for you. I learned so much. Dave Wolcott, welcome.
Welcome, Kary. Grateful to be here and connect with everyone. Really appreciate the support on this amazing journey it's been.
Oh my gosh. Listen, this is one of those books where I thought, I wish I had this thing about 10 years ago when I was making early financial decisions. But Dave, let's start right out of the gate with a little bit of background. I know you have some guests. I have some guests. We're sharing this. We have Tanisha monitoring. We're going to have people from all over the world jumping in here. But tell me a little bit, first of all, about what you do, your background. I know you have some military experience and you also have Pantheon as well. Give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of background on me is, I was raised in a middle-class family in Connecticut, and I was told that, the traditional modicum of go to school, get good grades, you're going to get a great job. And that was really the recipe for success at the time, right? So I followed down that path and went to school at George Washington University in DC. I had the opportunity to do the Marine Corps ROTC program. And so after college, went into the Marines, and such a challenging time, such an inspiring and amazing time I had in the Marine Corps, and learned some things that they just really don't teach you anywhere else in the world. Things such as leadership, teamwork, and integrity. And then after 4 years in the Marine Corps, I transitioned into corporate America, got into the tech industry, was really exciting, a lot of innovation and things like that. But I really struggled with, losing that same sense of purpose that I had in the Marines, and the loss of values that I saw in corporate America, how people were just trying to make, numbers, and then, jeopardizing really their integrity on how they made decisions. So that was really my first experience with kind of the corporate machine, and started to get frustrated there. And then at the same time, my family and I started to raise a family, right? And we had actually an 18-month-old toddler at the time. And then Kary, on October 24th, 2000, I just can't even tell you how crazy this was, but, we literally had triplets. And, quadrupling the size of your family, I can assure you, and one day we'll have, will completely set you on the path to figuring out, okay, how am I going to financially provide, right, for my family? So, the first thing I did is I went to go see my financial planner, and I just got so frustrated with, the answers that they gave me. And he said the exact same thing the three others before it said, which is, invest in the market will go up, it's going to go down. You'll make a 7% return, so invest for the long term. And things like, defer your taxes. For your kids, you can invest in a 529 plan or max out your 401k. And this is really the traditional advice that's being put out there to the 95%. But I think the entrepreneur in me at that point just got really frustrated. And I wanted to solve the question, Kary, of how do you build real legacy wealth outside of Wall Street? I want to outperform that 7% return. And I also want to create much more financial security for my people. And ultimately, what does that do? It provides more freedom and more security in your life to really live an amazing life where you're not looking over your shoulder all the time, and you can live, a future that's always bigger than your past.
And I'll tell you why we have to be more than 7%, because inflation Like, in other words,
Easily.
if you're at 7%, correct me if I'm wrong, you're better at these numbers than me, but we're actually losing the game now. Is this true?
Yeah, inflation. But the other thing, we're not factoring in is taxes and fees, right? So
Wow.
I think it's really, misunderstated right out there that, financial planners, people are getting their statements of their 401k every month and they say, okay, maybe I'm up, maybe I'm down a little bit, but, I'm growing, right? And I'm making progress. But what they don't realize is that's pre-tax money. And you keep deferring taxes in that vehicle. So when you run that out over a 20-year period, or when you want to take that out in retirement or later years, you're going to be paying ordinary income tax rates on that, which my guess would be taxes are likely going to be even higher than they are today. And you're right, the inflation and the fees. So even what you thought was even a 7% steady return is much more like 2.5%.
Wow. So folks, this is why, again, when I read this book, I said, oh my gosh, I wish I would have learned this earlier. So we're going to start providing solutions very soon. Dave's book totally goes over that. In fact, one of the ones that was super relevant to me, which I hope you can talk about, is this whole thing about maybe getting, what do you call it, an apartment, a rental for your kid when they're in college, and then being able to deduct it or something. I mean, you got some crazy cool legal things in your book. What are some of your favorites?
It's so funny, Kary. I've been reading the book this week myself, and
Yes.
trying not to be critical of the things I could have improved and things like that. But it's so funny because I literally learned something even from my own advice as I was
Wow.
reading through it. Right, I was in the tax strategy session, and I have my triplets now are 22. I have a 24-year-old who's actually getting married this summer. So I've been trying to, think about it in my head. I mean, a lot of this is how you think about things, and you need to make a paradigm shift, around taxes, around wealth, all these types of things. So for instance, every move I make, whether I go on a trip, I purchase something, I'm always understanding the tax consequences. And then what's that going to do to, my income statement and my balance sheet, upstream and downstream. So my daughter's getting married, and I was thinking, how could I make this wedding tax deductible? Because it's pretty pricey, and I want to be as efficient as possible. So, and I had been thinking about it, but then when I was reading my book, one of the strategies that's really huge, it's called income shifting, right? So, and especially when you're a business owner, you can essentially shift some of your income into different buckets that get taxed at a different tax bracket, right? So, and one of the ways to do that is to actually pay your kids in your business. And my daughter has done a lot of work for my business. And so what I did is I just, said, look, I'm going to carve out some hours for you to do some work in my business. And now my business is going to pay her. And then she's going to use that additional income to pay for the wedding, right there. Right. And guess what the strategic byproduct of this is, Kary? Right. Because we're always looking for strategic byproducts.
Oh, I mean, I could imagine, I'm not good at math, but let's just say you're taxed in the 30 some plus and she's taxed at something. I mean, you just saved a huge amount of income right there.
Yeah, a huge amount. It's much more efficient. But the strategic byproduct that came up to me is I get to teach my daughter about taxes in a real way.
Wow.
Right. And what's really more powerful than that, right, is to have your kids, really learn these lessons. And just like you said at the beginning of this interview, if you had only known this when you were 20.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, drives my passion, is to try to, empower other people to be, get off of this conventional wisdom of thinking, start asking questions for yourself, create goals for yourself, and then, try to get there. And, when you put that together and you're able to, have your kids learn that and other people, it's really powerful.
I'll tell you what, Dave, who knows if my parents are watching this. I love them to death. They both worked in nonprofits, so we didn't have a ton of money growing up. But what I'm saying is that I didn't learn these lessons. And what I've realized through your book is that the IRS tax code, there's two ways to view it. One way is, man, this organization is so dumb. They're jerks. The other thing is, like, they gave us the secrets legally on how to play the game and win. And I like your approach, because there's all kinds of things in there, like Section 179, I think, where you can, like, get a larger vehicle, a luxury vehicle. And if you follow the rules right, that can be a write-off. Like, there's all kinds of opportunities. And it truly is that the wealthy get wealthier because they know this stuff. But yet your book is 99 cents today. I mean, I'm just going to tell people, if they do not get this book today, they are making a dumb financial decision, because it is gold. I know it's much more than your hourly rate, 99 cents, but literally, why did you write a book and put such wisdom in even a $15 paperback? Why'd you do that?
I really appreciate that question, Kary. And, as I was reflecting on the book launch and everything, I really wanted to solve, as an entrepreneur, what problem are you solving? Yes. So the problem I wanted to solve is I wanted to create financial security for my family, and I wanted to create legacy wealth. Ooh, right. So time that I could actually help, my kids and actually their kids. And then also, create more, freedom in my life, so that regardless of whatever the number is, you have an abundance mindset, and you're really living that dream today, because the typical model, it really drives towards a scarcity mindset, right? Yeah. This accumulation theory model that Wall Street puts out, which is, work for 40 years and save up this nest egg and then go travel the world when you're 65. Well, yeah. I don't know about you, but I want to live life like 10x today. Yeah. Right. And every day, and so that was really the problem that I was trying to solve. And, and I'm a simplifier, right? Yes. So in terms of going through this myself for the past 20 years, what I wanted to do is actually turn this into a system for people, from all the, mistakes and successes that I've had. How can we turn wealth building into an actual system to build wealth, right? So you can have repeatable results.
So good. And listen, I was just sharing a second ago to the crowd, but how cool does it feel that you are the #1 book in small business tax? I mean, you're crushing it in other categories too, but I think that says something. I think the world is right now saying, you know what? There's some secrets in here. And, for you to be out even just a few days, 48 hours, and you already have 6 5-star reviews. How does that feel, man? Because I know it's a lot of work to write a book.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Also, some of the other categories, financial engineering, we're tracking in #1, which is really cool, because that's really the way I think about this. A lot of this is, financial engineering. And, I'm just really grateful, Kary. I'm really grateful for all the learning, all the relationships that I've created, over those 20 years. And it just feels great to be able to give back and try to impart all these learnings, so other people don't have to make, the mistakes that I did. They can also accelerate their journeys, just so much faster.
I know you like to travel. I like to travel too. In fact, I'm doing Paris cycling. You go to Italy. I'm jealous. It's all good, but I'm doing that for the first time. But I'll tell you what, Dave, that's you and I follow a guy named Dan Sullivan, and we're part of Strategic Coach, but he talks about 4 freedoms. And your book really goes over that. I mean, it's not just about money. You talk about, if you want true wealth, you are actually doing more than money. Can you explain that? Because some people might be watching and saying, is he just talking about money? But how do you understand wealth?
Yeah, I really love understanding the psychology of money, Kary. right? Because again, I think, Wall Street conditions us to think that you need to have some kind of number, right? And then people start living up to this ideal of, I've got to have 1 million, I've got to have 10 million, I've got to have 100 million, whatever this number is. And then once I get there, everything's going to magically, be okay. Right. So, it's not good to associate yourself with a number. Right. And Dan Sullivan himself talks about, he does not measure himself, by a number. Right. Yeah. You're measuring yourself really by, your ideals, your contributions and things like that. So I think for everyone and, for my journey, I've spent a lot of time really thinking about what does wealth mean to me? Because society portrays wealth as being rich. Yeah. Being rich and being wealthy are two different things. Right. So being, when you're rich, there's a lot of people, you can make a lot of money, but you can also spend a lot of money and you can buy fancy cars and, go on extravagant vacations and everything. But are you building assets? Do you have great values in your family? Things like that. And wealthy are buying assets, right, that are producing cash flow, right, that are going to provide opportunities for generations to come, And to me, the definition of wealth is also, creating these freedoms, as you mentioned, because, I think it's really a lot of the underlying, thing with money, right? Because you can create freedom of money, which gives you the money to be able to do the things you want to do, whether that is go on an amazing vacation with your family. Maybe it's creating your own foundation and having some impact, but you need capital to be able to do that. We also, look, I spent, a number of years in corporate America feeling completely handcuffed. So I wanted to create freedom of purpose.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just be in that time and effort economy where I was trading, my time for money, basically all the time. Right. I wanted to have really freedom of time, freedom of purpose. And I've talked to, so many clients around that also, just trying to have more time in their lives to spend that quality time, with their families, with their relationships. Yes. So, I really encourage people to do a lot of deep thinking about that, because I think ultimately a lot of it revolves around creating freedom in your life and in multiple different dimensions. And also, I think there's a big aspect of that in addition, which is security. Ooh, right. So it's conquering some of your biggest fears. Right. Wow. So a lot of times, what are some of those fears that you have in life? I mean, right now you turn on the news and everyone's talking about the collapse of the banking system. What's next? Is that 2008? So, it creates fear. Sure. Right. And who wants to live in fear? Right. That's non-productive. We need to take the certainty we have in our lives and create certain outcomes with what we have and let go of the uncertain things.
Love it. You have a whole thing. You have a podcast. You have a business. Talk to us a little bit about Pantheon. What do you see as, your ultimate goal? I heard you have some kind of mastermind that's starting. Take us through a little bit of the website here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, Kary. So the way I see this is I just want to create absolute maximum value for our clients to help them along that journey. So wherever they are in that journey. So for instance, one of the offerings that we provide is infinite banking. Right, which is essentially using a cash value whole life insurance policy that life insurance companies have been around for 150 years. Okay. And they won't fail like banks. So you can put capital in there. It completely compounds tax-free. You can give it to your heirs tax-free. It has asset protection. And then you can also borrow against it to pay for your kids' college, invest in the next opportunity. Things like that. So I find that a lot of people just do not have this as part of their portfolio. They just do not have this liquidity and safety portion because, again, Wall Street is talking about a 60-40 portfolio, which, consists of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Right. And so these things in my book, are very risky. Even bonds, it's completely upside down, right? The bond market, those are not safe. So having something that's really safe, that provides you liquidity and everything, this really addresses some of your, concerns. So that's why we like to support the infinite banking. We also have private equity opportunities, Kary, where we can offer, what we believe are under the opportunities section.
Opportunities. Love it. Yes.
So under here, we are identifying what we believe are exclusive opportunities in the marketplace, where we're investing in assets, completely non-correlated to Wall Street, right?
Wow.
We're buying things like apartment buildings, self-storage units, oil and gas, right? Different things that provide passive income. They provide tax efficiency, and they provide some type of forced appreciation on the upside, right? And we've seen just amazing, over 20 years of doing this, I've basically averaged at least a 20% annualized return on these types of assets. And by the way, they're completely tax efficient on top of that. So if you just keep rolling it right into the next opportunities, you won't be paying taxes on that. So
what would someone need to start with?
Typically minimum investments are 50K to get into. But what's amazing is, right, you can get into a 300 unit apartment building as a limited investor, and, you're being able to access a, top-notch acquisitions person, asset management, property management. You don't have to worry about tenants, termites, and toilets. You just focus on writing your check, and then you get your cash flow returns. So those are some of the, private equity opportunities that we're bringing mostly to accredited investors.
Man, see, I told you, folks. We have people that are, jumping in from all over and loving this. We got Ruben here. By the way, folks, tell us where you're from, and tag and share somebody, because literally, even what we just heard, I never knew that was possible. And I think sometimes people think, well, I got to buy the whole apartment building, and it's going to cost millions of dollars, and there's no way I can even get involved. But what you just shared, Dave, is, hey, they can get involved for a lot lower fee without, what do you call it? Termites, toilets, and what was it?
Tenants. Yeah.
Tenants. Yeah. That's great. Okay. So that's fantastic. What else is on this page here?
Yeah. And then we've also recently launched a mastermind and family office for those clients who really want to go deep with us, right? And they want to take these concepts around the holistic wealth strategy and truly 10x their wealth, right? This is top 1% people that want to get to the 1/10. They have a big mindset. They're very ambitious. And we've put together a team of just like the faculty of advisors we have, Kary. Honestly, it's taken me 20 years to curate some of these people, like the proactive CPA firm that we have. I literally fired 5 CPA firms over the course of 20 years, paid so much in taxes, was always frustrated until I finally found the right one. And now we have this CPA firm as part, of our team that can be part of your dream team if you start this, right? We also have one of the top asset protection attorneys completely in the country. So you want to create a trust or something? No, we're talking about very sophisticated strategies, right? That can completely, protect. We like to say that you want to build a fortress around your wealth so that, nobody can come after it. So these are very, very unique type of advisors that we've pulled all together. We actually, Kary, this is really exciting to me as well, because again, this is called the Holistic Wealth Strategy. So we believe so much in health. So lifespan and health span are so important, right? Having the energy to do the things that you want to do. And then in your last decade, right, you're picking up the grandkids, you're going swimming with them, you're not sitting in a wheelchair. So On the health side, we actually have one of the leading functional medicine doctors who is part of our faculty, Dr. Pappas, who's just a brilliant mind, and, you know, learning all kinds of, you know, new protocols, biohacking, things like that, that can really, you know, expand your health span and lifespan.
I found that conversation is now essential. In other words, if you have a financial advisor who is not talking about longevity and lifespan, that's really only half the equation. What do you think, Dave?
Oh, completely. Because, I mean, think about Steve Jobs, right? I mean, he had all the wealth in the world and he couldn't solve his health challenges.
Wow.
So what would he have actually paid to do that? Right.
Wow. So
and we could ask, you know, listeners right now, I mean, how much do you spend on your health in a year? Okay. LeBron James spends over $1.5 million on his body every year. Right.
And the hater hears that and they're like, oh my gosh. But then you think about what his body generates
in terms of revenue.
Well,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then
it's massive.
And then you're like, that's actually really cheap to invest $1.5 million to get all of his endorsements and salary and all that stuff. So I agree with you, man.
Yeah. And so part of the philosophy as well, Kary, here is to make people realize that you are your biggest asset. Right. And again, I think from this $30 trillion financial services industry, they just want you to make you think that you're not smart enough, you know, to manage your own wealth. And so, hey, you know, it's so complicated that, you know, we need to do that, but you're really just working towards their agenda. Right. And if you understand the concept that you are your greatest asset, you want to invest in your asset. And frankly, I've always seen the biggest return anytime I invest into a mastermind or some place that I can learn, or I invest in my health. I've at a minimum gotten a 10x return.
It's so good. All right. What else do you have here? I know you have a top-notch ranked podcast.
Yeah, the podcast is probably a great people. You know, if people want to learn more, this is all about, you know, creating value for other people with our podcast. So we have some amazing guests. You can say just this week, we had Richard Wilson, who's actually on our faculty as well. I mean, he's advised over 200 ultra wealthy families on setting up family offices. How do they structure their portfolios? How do they think about money and wealth and things like that? So we're always trying to get amazing guests in to create value for our listeners and help them, you know, learn these, you know, different concepts and strategies.
So good. So you have a listen and a watch, looks like. What else? I know you have this whole resource section.
Yeah, this is another section, Kary, where, you know, again, we're just trying to create education, right? So here, you know, we've actually put together some, you know, great books, right? Because reading is definitely one of the top success habits of the wealthy, right? And they're constantly reading. So I know a lot of these concepts are very new to people, especially when they get into, you know, alternative assets and mindset and thinking like this. So we've kind of, you know, curated really what we think are some of the best books in these different categories. And we're always adding to that. So that's, you know, that's one area. And then, you know, certainly doing, you know, blog postings, investor kind of 101 FAQ. And then if you go over to wealth strategy on the top left, Kary.
Perfect.
Yep. Right here, you know, this is where we're also trying to create free resources. So anyone who's interested in the book, if you scroll down a little bit, you can enter your information in here and we'll send you free resources from the book.
Ooh,
so right there, we have some bonus materials, which are really cool. We actually built a 401k exit calculator, Kary.
Wow.
So I know that this is completely controversial, but let me just give you some numbers, right, that we did in putting this together, which I went through this process myself. I sold my 401k about 10 years ago, and I've never looked back. I think I've tripled my money since. But if you take 100k that's sitting in a 401k that you have today, and you paid the 10% penalty on it, and let's assume you're in a 35% tax bracket. So your net investable, your 100k now goes to 55k. If you invest into a private opportunities such as multifamily syndication, so one of these apartment buildings, right? You invest in that, it's making a 20% return. You're able to depreciate your returns through the tax savings and everything. And you just flip that every 5 years because they sell in about 5 years. So if you just did a rinse and repeat, at the end of 20 years, you would actually be that 55K would turn into 2 million.
Oh my God.
With uninterrupted compounding. Now,
and how many years would that take?
20 years.
20 years.
Wow. 55K. But let me just compare that to had you left your money in the 401k. So everyone's in the 401k saying, Ed, I can't pay the penalty. I can't get out. Well, in the end of 20 years, once you factor in taxes,
right,
and fees, you're actually at 250K.
Wow. So you've almost, what is that, 10x'd?
Completely. I don't have my calculator, but it's substantially better, right? And that doesn't even factor in inflation or fees. We're just talking about it at 35% tax ratio. Right. And this, this is a real, I feel really obligated to help people with this, Kary, right? Because, Wall Street is working on their agenda. And you have to understand the way they make their money. They make their money on assets under management. So if you have $1 million portfolio that's sitting in 401k, IRA, something, they're taking a 1% fee on that. Even when last year the market's down 20%, it's not doing great this year, you're still paying a 1% fee on that. But the biggest thing they're really not telling you is what is that income when you want to take the money out less the taxes.
Wow.
Right? What is the actual amount? Because, it's going to be substantially less than you thought.
Yeah.
And Kary, let me give you folks another really good scenario, a simple scenario to make this kind of ring through, and why I think the Wall Street investing thesis is completely incorrect. So they tell you to save money and just put it into your 401k plan. So let's say you've saved up 4 million by the time you reach 65. Okay. And then they're going to say through this Monte Carlo simulation that you'll withdraw 4% a year. It's even less than that now, but 4% of, you might think, hey, I got to 4 million. That's a pretty decent number. But at 4% a year, that's 160K. Okay. So your income on 4 million at 65 is 160K. What they're not telling you about is the taxes that you've had to pay on that. So that 160K is probably more like 110 that you're living on. Wow. Okay. And then each year, so at age 66, you're going to take out another 160K, right? So you start now killing your golden goose that you've saved, all this time to build up to. Wow. So you have the risk of actually outliving your money because that simulation and modeling probably has you aged out at age 89, and there's no more capital. And then how are you going to raise, any more money at that point in your life? So take that scenario and now compare it with the passive income thesis and investing in these assets that we're talking about. Take the same 4 million. That 4 million is producing 8% in cash flow a year. You're able to offset all of the income with bonus depreciation. So now you have 8%.
And tell us what that means, because there's some of us who don't know what that means, including me. What is a bonus depreciation?
Bonus depreciation is that it's a little bit of a complicated topic, but essentially you have an apartment building, and then all of the fixtures, the HVAC system, the carpeting, all of that gets assigned a value. And then they do what's called a cost segregation study, and then they can depreciate that, just like you can depreciate a car in your business or other things in your business. So you get paid that 8% income, but you're basically able to offset that income to bring it down to zero.
Wow.
Or even more, right? So in this scenario that we're going with, that same 4 million, if you're making 8% tax free, you're now making 320 grand a year with no taxes. Okay. And then your 4 million is still appreciating. So when you're 66, you've gone up like another 10%. So, now you're at 4 million plus, right? And it keeps rising. So that's how you can actually create legacy wealth. And then when you pass, you can give it to your heirs tax-free through a stepped up basis, right? So which scenario would you rather be living under, right? The 100K on the existing Wall Street model, or this 320K. And by the way, the 320, every time your asset value keeps going up in 5 years, let's say it's 5 million. So then you're 8% of 5 million. So now you're at 400K a year. And you're not doing anything, right? This is all having your money work for you.
So mind blown. And I even read the book. So here's my question. Let's say you got a skeptic out there. Is there any risk? I mean, we don't see apartments going down. Is there a risk? I don't know, with the 50K investment thing. What do you think?
Well, there's risk in everything you do, Kary. And we just saw last week that there's risk in putting your money in a bank.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Okay. Which is a little scary. And I can also tell you that, my wife was gifted by her generous dad Kodak stock about 15 years ago, right? The stock, one of the most blue chip stocks you could think of, right?
Wow.
Completely went bankrupt. We lost all of our money, no recourse, no nothing.
Wow. So you're saying life is a risk. Now, what kind of risk do you want to do?
Yeah, I think all investing has some type of inherent risk to it, right? So it's understanding what type of risk profile you have with your investor DNA, and then investing in assets, right, that can support that. But these homes, for instance, which multifamily apartments, which is really interesting, is if you think back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, where you've got food, shelter, energy, right? Shelter is totally important. So even if we have another recession, people need a place to live. I mean, it's very fundamental unless they go move in, back with their parents, right?
Right.
And we're investing in tangible assets, like, very hard, asset, unlike paper stocks, where we wake up today, we'll get off this call and watch the market go down another 2 points because of what? Because of fears of, Credit Suisse and, what's happening over there. You have absolutely no control over. Yes. Well, you have an apartment building, people sign a 12-month lease, and, you've got the occupancy. Plus, there's more risk mitigation, because in a 300-unit apartment building, you can afford to have 50 units vacant, right? You're still cash flowing all the others. So where do you want to take your risk?
Wow. All right. So let's go to your book. Here's the book, folks. Again, bestseller, #1. I've been blown away. I would say, just based on Dave's wisdom alone, get this book. What are people going to get from I love table of contents. I'm an author and a publisher. I nerd out on it because it tells me where you're taking me. Where are you taking us in the book?
Yeah, maybe if you go to skip ahead maybe to page 129, Kary.
They may let me, they may not.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not in there. So essentially, we have the entire wealth strategy laid out and a really nice infographic here.
Oh yeah, I know where it is.
All these different phases.
It's on your website.
Right? Yeah. And when you have a strategy, right, that's got all these different phases, you're turning wealth building into a system.
Yeah.
And that way.
Where would that be?
Oh yeah, go to the home page and then scroll down a little bit.
Yeah. So the book
right
is
there.
literally unpacking this.
This is really the core. Yeah. Right. So the book talks about, creating a vision statement, because if you don't have a target, you're going to miss every time. You've got to get crystal clear on where you're going in life. Right. And setting the stage for that. And then we walk through each of these 5 phases. So you can start to think about these things really differently, before you start investing, because, I think you really need to go through a mindset transformation before you're ready to invest in these private investments, right? You need to change the way you think, and you also need to get educated. There's a formula out there that is your net worth is equal to your financial IQ plus your relationship capital. So exactly. In phase 2, we talk about the importance of, relationships, how powerful they are, and also just learning about these opportunities. Yeah. I mean, I had no idea, right, that there were some of these opportunities existed. We launched, we have an oil and gas fund, Kary, that invests in oil producing wells. And the investment is 100% tax deductible, even against W-2 active income. So I just got back my K1 statement here. It's March. And in year 1, one of the investments I put in, if you invest 100K, it came back 87% as a tax deduction. Right. Wow. So now I take that 87 grand and I can apply it to any other income. And if you're a high income earner, we have many high income earners that are trying to offset their taxes. If you're a doctor, you're an entrepreneur, and you're trying to offset that, this is like an amazing strategy to do that, because it's all about what you keep, not what you earn.
So Dave, oh my gosh, this has been amazing. What do you hope the book does? I mean, I know you said helps people create legacy wealth. Where do you see you and Pantheon going in the next, 5 years?
Kary, I really want to inspire people to take action. How many times have you heard a great podcast, a great TEDx talk where someone went through a major transformation in their lives, and they had that through the loss of a loved one, a chronic illness, something really challenging in their lives, right? My calling is to try to inspire people to take action of your life now, right? Get out of the corporate and Wall Street type approaches that are out there. Get autonomy and control over your finances and your wealth by creating that vision that you want to have, so that you can really start, living that life that you want to live now, right? And what that means to you. So to the extent that, our clients are 10xing their wealth and their lives, then we are going to 10x.
Wow. Listen, man, I was just chatting with somebody yesterday, said their daughter was getting married, and, nothing against this person. They're amazing. They're a friend, but he's not thinking, how do I pay for that thing with a tax write-off or tax deduction. So I love this. Kevin asked the question, how do I order the book for 99 cents? So folks, go to Amazon. This book is available Kindle, paperback, hardcover. It's coming out on audio in the near future, but you can't wait. You can't wait. You got to get this stuff now, because you're right. I mean, the headlines show that the most safe things that we thought, putting your money in the bank. Just yesterday, I saw somebody on Twitter wearing a shirt that said banks are a scam. And I think our world is just waking up to the fact that it's changing, and you can't think and strategize the same way. And your book, The Holistic Wealth Strategy, is the answer. So Dave, I'm blown away, man. Anything else you want to say? I know we put in links to your website, but it's pantheoninvest.com. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll leave some of these parting thoughts is that, this really works. I mean, not only did I experience this for myself, one of the biggest rewards for me is watching our clients have success with this. I know one of our clients in particular has, he's really had over 7-figure growth just by implementing these strategies.
Wow.
And the numbers only get bigger, guys. Right? You might be thinking, hey, this isn't for me, or maybe I only have $1 million portfolio or something right now. But I can tell you, once you start to learn these principles and you create this system, right, it starts to become a process that you just work on, and it all starts to snowball together, and the zeros just keep adding up.
Wow. I know you also are giving, and that's part of your whole philosophy, but did I read somewhere that part of the book proceeds go to help military or something like that?
Correct, Kary. So yeah, as a veteran myself, love to support the veteran community. So we're giving to thefund.org, which is an amazing group just trying to help our nation's heroes, right? Who've fallen, they're ill, they have challenges, post field time. So we're really just trying to help folks out with that. So yeah, a portion of the proceeds will be going there, and really believe it's a great cause.
Wow. Well, Dave, I'm glad that we met. I'm glad that we just started hanging out together through Strategic Coach, and I believe in this book. I believe in you, and I know you're going to help a ton of people. And you got me thinking, man. You got me thinking of like, wow, I could be doing more, and it's not as hard as we like to think. I love that idea of cashing in your 401k and how you ran those numbers. And even with the penalty, you run the numbers. And so, I mean, that's even an option, because, I love this. I love the honesty of one of our listeners, my friend here, Susan, who says, only $1 million. But my guess is that she probably has, and other people have, a 401k that they're waiting and waiting and waiting. And yet I don't like to live my life where I'm not in control. And you're right. Emotion and world events can just jack that up. And that's not comforting.
Yeah. And $1 million today, right? Again, you get that uninterrupted compounding, and you start to get some of these other things, working. Because again, part of this strategy is actually reducing the top 3 biggest wealth destroyers, which are taxes, government-sponsored qualified plans, and stock market losses over time. So when we can start to mitigate those at the same time we're increasing our upside, let's just say if I gave you a 20% tax reduction, that would be one of the best yielding opportunities you ever had.
Right.
But if you got a 20% tax reduction plus you got an opportunity that was generating 20%, I mean, the returns really start to magnify. And that's what I've experienced and really quantifiably have, put that out into numbers.
I'm going to give everyone a challenge here. Listen, I'm a publisher. I know the game that Amazon plays. And my guess is that you probably got more value today than you've gotten in a long time on this topic. That means that you just heard Dave speak the book. So I want you to go on Amazon. I want you to click Kindle. I want you to get that, get a gift version, whatever you want. But then I want you to do a review. And Dave, I showed you, man, I've done so many reviews that Amazon has banned me. Like if I hit customer review, man, I can put in my password and they literally ban me. I write so much reviews. But everyone else who's not banned, do a review, because people are going to hit Dave's page and they're going to say, oh my gosh, I need this book. And look at Keith already ordered it just now. Susan is buying it and leaving a review. Tanisha already left one. So man, you've developed a fan club. This thing's going to live on YouTube. Share it, tag it, everybody. Dave, thanks for being here, my friend.
Yeah, really grateful to connect with the audience and you as always, Kary.
Awesome. Well, folks, you have a great day. And hey, let's do the holistic wealth strategy together.